all of my Indian friends think I'm crazy. Everybody wants to ship to the US. For me, spirituality, the idea of it is like some kind of connection to some power greater than myself. More like what's within me. Because when I'm helping someone else, I'm not thinking about myself. So I had only seen movies like Slumdog Millionaire or things like that. I think the North, the way that the North looks is what most people in the US, I think that's what their impression of what India is like. Because I've traveled to Iran and visited so many mosques, and I've traveled to Buddhist countries and, Bali or Sri Lanka and participated in those religions and practices as well. But there's something about Hinduism that is just, there's something really different about it that I loved. I am a big believer in prayer and meditation. There's a community in Los Angeles, a yoga community that is fairly advanced. It's not traditional yoga, but it's quite athletic and it's challenging. In my early 20s, it's very common in the US to drink alcohol. My philosophy, even to this day, is, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. The US, we have this spiritual program. It's called Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm a woman traveling by myself. I'm in this temple in the middle of nowhere in India. They can't understand how I could have found it. I love Tirupati. I love having this beginner's mind of learning more and more and more every day. It's like you have to feel the pain of the loss, the financial hit, to be able to really appreciate it. Being financially self-sufficient is not really about money. It's more about esteem building, like you were saying. Not feeling like you have to rely on anybody. Some of the things that I love about India that we don't have in the US is...
At first, thanks for coming in this my channel. I think I will also learn from you, and my subscribers, audience also learn from you a lot. So how you got impression to visit India at first?
I think I first came maybe 20 years ago. And I came with one of my best friends. She's also an excellent traveler. And we came on a whim. We made the plan very last minute. We used a travel company because we had never been here before. And we hit all of the most typical spots. We flew into Delhi. We did the Golden Triangle. So we went to Jaipur, Agra, Delhi. And then we went to Varanasi. And then came down to the south to Kerala. So we got a really sort of big mix for somebody coming the first time, seeing north and south. Because to me, the north feels like a completely different country than the south. I think the north, the way that the north looks, is what most people in the US, I think that's what their impression of what India is like. Very crowded, lots of trash, poverty, very dramatic feeling, loud and honking and hot and dry. And then coming down to the south was, I didn't even feel like I was in my idea of India anymore, because I had only seen movies like Slumdog Millionaire or things like that. And when I came here, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, eventually all of those, it's like a completely different planet from the north. Nobody is throwing trash. It's so green and beautiful and lush. It's much more of a diverse mix of spirituality, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, and just feels like, so calm, and so the landscape is so beautiful, and you have the sea and the backwaters everywhere, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So I think like the north is good serves its purpose, and the south serves its purpose. And I feel like after that first trip, I realized I could come here every year for the rest of my life and still never scratch the surface. Because that first trip I was going to like the most famous places. But then I would find that if I would take a wrong turn, or I would meet somebody like you who would tell me about some temple I could never have found on my own. And sometimes are so much more magical than the ones that everybody knows about. So I think that's also what keeps me coming back to India is there's just no end to the amazing places to see. I love it.
What is spirituality as per you? Because spirituality, I have heard from many people also, is means the understanding about spirituality difference for different people. You know, I understand in one way, you understand. What is spirituality actually?
I mean, I do think you're right. I think it's different for different people. So I can tell you, for me, spirituality, the idea of it is like some kind of connection to some power greater than myself. So the way that I witness that in other people, I see, especially here in India, would be, for instance, people's dedication to visiting their temple. Whether they go on a daily basis, whether they go for special occasions, festivals, or holidays or things. That is what is so striking to me in India about Indian spirituality, is the regularity and dedication of going to a temple. Now, I have plenty of friends here also who have a puja room in their home, and they very rarely go to a temple, so definitely to each their own. But the fact that there are seemingly millions of temples everywhere you go in India, there's a temple so nearby, and usually there are people in it at any time of day. So I think that's the way I witness it in India, and for me personally, it's this feeling of knowing that everything that is happening in my life is happening for a good purpose. Like I don't have the belief that anything is happening to me. I feel like always everything is happening for me. And that is because I have this faith instilled in me that even when, I try not to label things as being bad or good in my life, because plenty of things that I have thought were the worst things that could happen to me ended up being magical experiences in my life. It's difficult, no question. Health concerns, heartbreaks, financial insecurity, things like that. But then getting to the other side and then being able to look back and seeing that it was for a greater good, a higher purpose, then it gives me this faith where when I face challenges in my life, I never am feeling negative about it, because I always know that like my faith in my God, whatever that is, changes all the time, is really unshakable, no matter what's going on the outside. So like spirituality for me is more like what's within me, and being exposed to like the spiritual practices in India has been my favorite, because I've traveled to Iran and visited so many mosques, and I've traveled to Buddhist countries and Bali or Sri Lanka, and participated in those religions and practices as well. But there's something about Hinduism that is just, there's something really different about it that I love. And millions of gods, and everybody has their god, and everybody says different things, and you say Jai Shri Ram, and you say Hare Krishna. I think it is, again, that feeling of there's just no end to the learning about it. That's appealing to me.
So you said like you practice yoga and like asana and pranayama. Since I think few years you was
26 years.
Oh, 26 years.
Yeah.
How it changed in your, what changes you have seen after practicing these things?
I think the changes I've seen are, for me, I am a big believer in prayer and meditation. And prayer for me is very easy. I do it all day long, every day. Anytime I have a thought where I feel a little bit disturbed, I'll pray for God to just show me His will and give me the power to carry it out. I don't pray for anything specific, like, please give me this, please, do this. More of just like, because as I said before, I never know what God's will is. And God's will is so much more magical than anything I could come up with my finite brain. So I try not to tell God what I want or need, because God knows much better than what I think I need for myself. So for me, though, the meditation is a little bit more of a challenge. I have a pretty busy life and a big job and all of these things. And so for me, the way that I started meditating was in yoga because it's like a movement meditation. When I am in yoga, the classes I take are pretty rigorous, challenging. Poses are difficult. And there's a community in Los Angeles, a yoga community that is fairly advanced. It's not traditional yoga, but it's quite athletic and it's challenging. So when I am practicing yoga, I really cannot think about anything else other than just what I'm doing right there in that class. Taking direction from a teacher also, which is why I don't typically practice yoga at home because then I get distracted and I can't pay attention. But if I am following a teacher in a class of like-minded people, then I find that I'm not thinking about my job or my friends or what I'm having for dinner that night. It's like I'm totally focused. The other time that I find that happens for me is if I'm listening to live music. If I'm at like a temple and there's live music playing or some kind of concert, I feel like my mind lets go just like it does in yoga. And it's this like relaxation, meditation. And I have found that for me, also riding my bicycle. That's another good example. But yoga was the very first practice that I found that in and have continued to do it, ironically enough, on a daily basis for almost 26 years. The only time I don't practice is when I'm in India because I'm traveling around and it's a different kind of yoga here, you know?
So yesterday you were saying about one community you are in. They have changed your life and you are mentoring nowadays. Can you tell?
Sure.
It's a very completely new thing for Indians, you know.
Yeah.
Can you tell more about it?
Sure. So, and stop me anytime because this is a long story.
Yeah.
But when I was, let's see, in my early 20s, it's very common in the U.S. to drink alcohol. And all four of my grandparents died of alcoholism. They were addicted to alcohol, and even some might say my father has a little bit of trouble with it. So when I was coming up, I started drinking like a normal teenager, and then it got to the point where it was more and more of a problem. And just drinking too much, having blackouts, getting in serious trouble, putting myself in really dangerous situations. And it's like all of my friends had like an off switch. They knew like, oh, I've had enough. And it was never like that for me. There was never enough. And I always say like my philosophy even to this day is, you know, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. It's like, you know, 1 is too many and 1,000 is not enough. So what I found is, as it continued, I needed to find some help. So in the U.S., we have this spiritual program. It's called Alcoholics Anonymous. And the way that it works is it's a free program, open for anyone. It's incredibly popular in Los Angeles. I may be biased, but I think that we have the best Alcoholics Anonymous in the world. It's called AA. We have our own spiritual text. It's a spiritual program. And we have a text, and it's called The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It sort of looks like a blue Bible. It's about that size. And the way that the program works is we have meetings. And in Los Angeles, for instance, I think now at this point we have, you know, more than 2,500 meetings a week that you can choose from, all around the clock, in every neighborhood. And you attend these meetings in person, and you look for somebody in the meeting that has a spiritual practice or a lifestyle that is appealing to you. So, for instance, most of these meetings have speakers. So I would go to meetings in the beginning, and then I heard a speaker that I really loved her spiritual practice and how she was staying sober and all of those things. And so I asked her to be my sponsor, and that's the way it works. So you ask somebody in the meeting that you know about, or somebody will introduce you to if they think it would be a good fit. And we have these 12 steps in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the sponsor's role is to take you through the 12 steps. Everything is free. It's all donation. At most meetings, they pass around a basket and people put in $1. And it's only to help support like literature. We have not just the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, but we have plenty of other texts as well that are so helpful. so it doesn't cost any money. We say it's for fun and for free. And the way that it works is you have these 12 steps and you work them. And so step 1, which is, I would say, the most important to getting started, is you admit that you're powerless over alcohol, that your life has become unmanageable. Which, you know, by the time you end up in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, your life is probably unmanageable because nobody ends up in there by accident, you know? It's not like somebody's dream to be like, I one day aspire to be an alcoholic in a room full of other alcoholics trying to stay sober. So you start with step 1. And then it's this whole spiritual process of like coming to believe in a power greater than yourself. And that power, most people label it as God because that's the easiest way. And that's the way it's written in our book as well. But it can be anything. It can be the ocean or nature. It can be the spirituality of the group of the people who go to meetings with you. It can be, you can have a God, and as long as I believe you believe, then that's enough. If the word God feels uncomfortable, a lot of people use the term higher power. So that's sort of interchangeable with that. And what you do is you come to believe in a power greater than yourself. It can be anything, but you have to have the mindset that you're no longer in charge. You have to turn over your will, which is then the 3rd step, which is, for me, one of the most difficult because it's on a daily basis you have to practice this step. It's like easy for me to say, I understand my life has become unmanageable. I'm powerless over this substance. Yes, can I believe in a power greater than myself? Definitely. I cannot walk down to the beach and stop the waves. No problem. But turning my will over to the care of a God of my understanding is difficult. That has been the hardest thing for me because I want to be able to manage and control everything. I want to be able to put all the pieces in place so that my life looks a certain way. But as I was saying to you earlier, I've gotten to a point now because I am 22 years free of drugs and alcohol and working this program very rigorously, is that I don't have a hard time turning my will over anymore because I know that my will usually gets me in trouble. My will is usually not the best idea. My will got me into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. So when I am able to just ask God to show me God's will and just give me the power to carry it out, then I am free. Then God will show me the next step. And so we say our main prayer in Alcoholics Anonymous is God, it's called the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that is it. And then you continue on through the steps. There's a process of looking at your character defects. There's a process of an inventory where you look at the people that you have resentments against and you see your part in it. There's an amends process where you go to people, let's say I had wronged you in some way, then there's a very specific, like a regimen, instructions of how I approach you to make an apology, but not just to apologize, also to ask you, what can I do to make it right? A promise to never act this way again, whatever it might be. And then prayer and meditation is step 11, as I was saying earlier. And then step 12 is sharing the program with somebody who has less time than you. And that's the point of sponsorship. So a lot of times people will say that you have to go through all the 12 steps before you're ready to sponsor, so that then you can take somebody else through the steps. We say that you can't keep something, you have to also give it away. That's the only way. The only way to keep it is to give it away. And so it's time consuming. And for me, it's been the thing that has saved my life because I have these 11 women who I help. They're all over the world. Most are in Los Angeles, but I have one sponsee in Singapore, one in Mexico. And helping them, being of service, is the only way I'm able to find peace and serenity inside myself. Because when I'm helping someone else, I'm not thinking about myself. What do I have? What do I not have? What do I want? What do I look like? What kind of car? What about my job? All of these things fall away when I'm helping another young woman. When I'm being reminded of what I looked like 22 years ago. The desperation and the willingness of these girls to do the work is my greatest gift. And I don't have a husband and I don't have children. And I find that there's so many different ways in life to mother. And I feel like that is what I get to do with these girls. Some of them are quite young in their early 20s. The sponsee I've had for the longest time is 47. So even some of them have children, some of them don't. It's a mix. So being able to be a part of their life and know every detail, every nook and cranny, they have somebody who they can come to and talk to about anything without any judgment. And it's like being able to have that role as like a big sister or a mother is my greatest gift that I have. I have no better way to spend my time. And even when I am in India, it's the only connection really that I still have at home. I speak to my brother and my nephews a little bit here and there, my father every day, but my sponsees every night we are talking on the phone or texting.
So here in India, is a different topic. Here in India, most of the people, have American dreams kind of. Most of the Asian countries people,
Sure.
But you are planning to settle down in India. What is the what you say about it? What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because all of my Indian friends think I'm crazy. Everybody wants to ship to the US or Canada and I think part of it is, the ease of where you can go. So like, I know Canada is very friendly to Indian residents and nationals. And I think, and I understand that. I certainly don't have any judgment or begrudge Indian people for wanting to have something different. I think that because I was born and raised in the West, my wanting something different is coming here. So I think like some of the things that I love about India that we don't have in the US is number one, this like spirituality, this like ritual practice all over India that you can find at any time of day or night. I think also the connection to family in India is so different than in the US. And I'm very, very close to my brother, my nephews, my father. But like the joint families and the amount of time that you spend with your families and, spending time with each other and extended families and cousin brothers and all of these things is just so beautiful to me. Generations living together, like you living with your parents, your wife, your son, it's just a really beautiful thing. And I think that's lacking very much in the US. Everybody is living in separate houses. Nobody is interacting very much with each other. Everybody is just working. And I know in India, everybody is working a lot too, but it's so different. And then even just the vibrancy of the people in the West, everybody is just wearing plain Western clothes, Here you look around, even the most plain Saudi or Kurti set, or every woman looks everybody is just beautiful and full of life and color, and there's just so much to see and smell, and the food, and it feels like this culture is so rich. The people are so kind and welcoming. I don't know why you would ever want to leave this place, but I understand because there are plenty of Indian people who want a different kind of life. They want the creature comforts of the West. Maybe they want a neighborhood that is cleaner, or you never have to worry about water or electricity, all of these things. And I can say on the flip side, like you and I have discussed, the monetary cost of those things is also overwhelming. So yes, you may have, very strong internet and gas and electricity and your car and your home and all of these things, but then you have to work constantly because especially in Los Angeles where I'm from, everything is so expensive, so expensive. So it's just a lifestyle difference,
So you have visited 9 Jyotirlinga and all here in India and many other temples. Which is your favorite temple?
Oh, that's impossible. They're all so different. I can tell you some of my favorites, but really a lot of that has to do with who I met there, because when I travel alone, I will say the first maybe 6 times I came to India, always I was with somebody else. And then the first time I came on my own, I decided I never wanted to come with anybody else again. Because when I'm on my own here in India, people approach me all day long because they are so curious about the fact that I'm a woman traveling by myself. I'm in this temple in the middle of nowhere in India. They can't understand how I could have found it. And then I end up meeting people. For instance, the first time when I went to Tirupati, I was on the train there, and there was this family there. Maybe there were like 7 of them, 2 grandmothers, an auntie, mother, father, 2 children. And they were so fascinated by the fact that I was on the train going to Tirupati. And they said, well, you must come with us. And so we got off the train together. We sat down. I had lunch with them because they had brought, of course, a very elaborate setup for lunch. Then we went up to Tirupati. We all stayed together. I was with them. They all had their heads shaved. We had darshan. It was so remarkable to me that they included me as family so quickly, and I feel like that everywhere I go here. So part of the reason I love Tirupati is when I think back on those memories. So that's one of my favorites. Also, I love Rameshwaram. Incredible. I think because there I didn't know what to expect, and I thought that going around to all the different wells, I thought that the priest would, be like,
sprinkle.
Yes, exactly. And when at the first one, and I was wearing full sari, holding my purse with my phone and my money in it, and he pulled the bucket up and just all of the water, and I was shocked. Everything was soaked, my purse, my phone, my money. I couldn't believe it. And I was thrilled. It was so amazing. Yes. And so the rest of the time I was just holding my purse out like this. I would come, they would put it on me. And that was remarkable. I couldn't believe it. And then, and not just the temples, but also like Ajanta and Ellora caves, amazing. And, the backwaters in Kerala, so beautiful, being on a boat like that. So it's just temples, yes. Dharmasthala, I love. So many good temples in Tamil Nadu. You just can't even. I think I've been to Madurai like 4 or 5 times for the Meenakshi temple, so beautiful. And then I just was in Punjab for 2 weeks for the 3rd time. It's completely different there. The temples there, the gurdwaras, are entirely different. Here speaking and learning about the Sikh religion is, as an offshoot of Hinduism, also fascinating. And this is what I'm saying, like, no matter how many places in India I visit, I just feel like the learning that I have, and that's probably what's also so appealing to me, is always going to new temples. You have taken me to the most remarkable temples I never, ever, ever could have found on my own. So how could I ever get bored or feel like I have, conquered India in any way? There's just too much to see and learn. And I love having this beginner's mind of learning more and more and more every day.
So my channel is name is Spirituality, and most of the subscriber and audience is spiritual seekers. And also I have visited some ashrams and all, and after posting ashram video and all, many women, especially married, unmarried, divorced and all, they contacted me and said that we want to stay in ashram forever. So thing is, financially they are not stable. So you are self-sustained lady, you said about like you are you have taken loan for studying law and all, and you are a lawyer, and this is like you're almost in like a finished this work and financially stable.
Yes.
So can you please encourage some women or ladies about it, how to be, because staying self-sustained is very important nowadays, because in the end you will be there alone in some way.
That's right.
Even I advise some women also here, they email me and all, they say, I say don't go to ashram and surrender there, because sometimes ashram also closes then what you will do? So I want you to share your experience, life experience actually, about financial independence, freedom or something related to that.
Well, I would say that it's so funny because many of my friends growing up, Los Angeles is a very affluent community. There's a lot of money. And so many of my friends, their parents paid for college or any graduate program that they attended. My parents said no, they would not do that. I was the first person in my family to go to college. Neither of my parents had gone. So when it was time for me to go, they said, we'll support you in every way, but you need to pay for it. And the reason that they did that is because they felt, and rightfully so, that when I was paying for it, I would appreciate the value of it.
Yeah, right.
Because then every day I'm knowing how much money I'm spending to give myself this education. And an interesting similarity to that is a lot of times when people give up drugs and alcohol, they'll go to like a rehab facility for 30 days. And in the US, it is incredibly expensive, minimum like $1,000 a day. And my parents also made me pay for that because they said, it will give you, it's like you have to feel the pain of the loss, the financial hit to be able to really appreciate it. And so they did that with college and they did that with law school. And I was able to take out loans. We have student loans in the US that come with a very low annual percentage rate. So you have plenty of time to pay that off. However, by the time I finished law school, after 3 years, I had paid it all off because I am not somebody who likes to owe for instance, even now every month, if I use my credit card so that I can get rewards points, every month I'm paying that off. I do not like to have any kind of debt. And that's the way I felt with my school loans as well. And there's no question that the financial responsibility it instilled in me has stayed with me my entire life. I definitely appreciate nice things, but I am not one to be frivolous. I'm very fiscally conservative. There's no question. I am always making sure that if I'm spending money, there's a very good reason for it. I have saved a lot of money as well, and that is what has put me in this position now of if I choose to shift to India, I have worked hard enough, saved, been conservative, so that I can come here and probably not have to work again. And that, for me, the freedom that gives me, not having to rely on any other person, my family, a husband, any kind of partner, to be able to make my own decisions is what has really been to me the biggest benefit. Besides, the self-esteem and feeling very good about myself, just knowing that I can do whatever I want because I don't have to rely on someone else. Because I do feel people are fallible. They will always let you down, even if they are trying their best. But if I believe in a higher power, if I do the next indicated action, if I follow God's will, I feel like it has brought me to this place where I am taken care of no matter what. So part of it is me doing the footwork, and then part of it is leaving the results to God, and everything has worked out for me. And so I think being financially self-sufficient is not really about money, it's more about esteem building, like you were saying. Not feeling like you have to rely on anybody.
You're right.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing your experience in life sharing, and
Sure.
I am really blessed to meet you. Though when I progress spiritually, I meet such people come to me. It's like a connection kind of. So I feel like someone is sending someone like that. So I can learn and progress in this thing.
Yeah, as I said to you, I always say the phrase I love is, if it's odd, it's God. I didn't even intend to come to Udupi again this time, and I did, and that's the way that I found you. And I always feel like God is connecting us in just the right way. So.
Thanks a lot, and I'm really grateful for
Me too.
coming in this video.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.